What is up? Welcome back to another video. Today I thought I would cover 5 things that I am doing in order to make sure that I shred fat over the next 10 weeks for my WBFF bikini competition in Atlantic City. So let's get into it, starting with number 1. A calorie deficit. You would have heard me say this many times before across all my social media platforms. We cannot outwork our diet, and a calorie deficit is the key to fat loss. So what is a calorie deficit? In short, a calorie deficit is eating less calories than your body requires to maintain weight. So I'm going to be ensuring that I'm in a calorie deficit by tracking my macros. My macros are my proteins, fats, and carbs, staying within a certain amount of calories each day. So I'll be tracking all my foods using the app MyFitnessPal and weighing each of my foods and drinks that I'm putting into my body over the next 10 weeks. I've also been doing this for a long time prior to this point, but to make sure that you are on track with your goals, accuracy is key. So by weighing everything that we're eating and putting into our bodies can be a really good way to make sure that we're actually on track for whatever our goal is. And if our goal is fat loss, then that calorie deficit is going to be really important. And the best way to tell that you're in a calorie deficit is to actually measure the calories that you're putting into your body. So that is my number 1 thing, focusing on that. Other things when it comes to a calorie deficit are to note that it is natural to get hungry as you go into a, dieting down phase. So for me personally, I really focus on whole foods. I've been focusing on whole foods for the past few weeks, and it definitely helps with my satiation levels, as does making sure that I'm getting in enough fiber and enough protein each day. So making sure that we feel fuller for longer is going to make a fat loss phase a lot easier. So I personally would rather choose to eat whole foods over eating, the usual soul foods that I enjoy, just because it makes things, I guess, a lot easier. Number 2, something that I have always been big on is carrying my water bottle with me. It's honestly always like within arm's reach from wherever I am. And if I forget to take it when I head out for the day, it honestly feels like an absolute nightmare. I love drinking ice cold water. It's just something that I personally enjoy. I know some people like just normal, like room temperature. And this is not only good for my skin, my overall well-being, but I also find that it helps me feel fuller throughout the day. So on the days that I maybe feel a little bit more hungry, it tends to be because I haven't drunk as much water as I usually would. Speaking of hunger when in a deficit, something else, number 3, that impacts our hunger is also going to be the amount of sleep that we get. So Ross and I always prioritize sleep. We aim to get between 7 and 9 hours a night. I personally am not a nice person if I have not had 7 hours of quality sleep. It makes my day so much harder in terms of I feel more hungry because sleep impacts, or lack of sleep impacts, our hunger hormones like ghrelin and leptin, so hunger and satiation levels. But also, like, I just prefer closer to, 8 to 9 hours a night. So over the next 10 weeks, yes, I'll be hitting a minimum of 7 hours per night. But in the weekends, if I'm feeling a little bit more tired, I'll try and sleep in a little bit longer. So we wake up at 4:30 every single morning, but I'm not going to be opposed to staying in bed for an extra half hour or hour if I can sleep over that time. And I know as my deficit gets greater, and I've been in a deficit for a longer period of time, as I get leaner, I'm definitely going to be able to sleep a bit longer. But usually I wake up at about 4:30 and I'm like springing, ready to go. So definitely prioritizing sleep at that more so 8 to 9 hour mark where I can, hopefully, fingers crossed. Number 4, my neat. So tracking my steps. I'm actually getting a new fitness tracker. I'm getting the Samsung watch, because I wanted to treat myself going into this prep so that I feel even more inspired to hit my steps and also track other things using the watch. When it comes to hitting my steps, over the past few weeks, I've been hitting 10,000 steps every single day. Leading into comp, this is most likely going to need to increase. On my last prep, I had an absolute nightmare of a prep. I lost a loved one. I had injury after injury. I really struggled to hit my steps, so I had to swap it out with the bike. But touch wood, this prep is going a lot better in terms of me being able to walk. I'm seeing the osteo every 2 weeks. I'm also making sure that I go back to the podiatrist to ensure that I am training from head to toe in a way that works best for me and protecting myself from any future injuries. When it comes to tracking my steps, I'm aiming for 10,000 now. It's going to increase, but NEAT is a magical way for you to increase your overall calorie expenditure to help ensure that you're in a calorie deficit over time. I'm not saying that you need to, walk all the time and do these massive big walks in order to lose fat, but I am saying that something that I like to make sure is consistent is my steps over a fat loss period so that I can ensure that I'm maximizing the amount of fat I lose in the set time that I have, because competing is a very specific goal. Just like all the clients on the Anjuli Fit Squad that have a fat loss goal, I give them a step goal. If their goal is to build muscle, we lower that step goal down so that they can save the increase in steps for when they're going through a fat loss phase. So I am aiming for 10,000. Whether you want to aim for 10,000 on a fat loss phase or not is up to you, but just keep in mind that if you're doing under 5,000 steps every day, that is classed as sedentary. And there's been many studies of the benefit of having a more active lifestyle and not being so sedentary. So, don't see it as something you do in order to lose fat, but see it as something that you do for your overall well-being, because we're all on this journey to live a healthy lifestyle, right? I hope, maybe. Number 5, weight training. What am I actually doing with my weight training in order to shred fat? I think so many people, when they think of, fat loss, getting shredded, they think like lots of cardio, dieting down, not eating carbs, all these like crazy kind of things that might have been promoted years and years ago in the fitness industry. But now there's so much more research out to show that you can achieve your goals eating the foods that you love, that you don't need to do endless amounts of cardio in order to lose fat. So my focus for my shred is, of course, going to be on the calorie deficit, also on my steps, making sure that I'm doing enough NEAT across the week, because I do have a sedentary job in which I sit down a lot of the time coaching the Anjuli Fit Squad with their plans, their emails, doing the coaching calls, creating content. But I also am going to be focusing on weight training, and with my weight training, it is time under tension. So really focusing on the time under tension in terms of the eccentric moves. I'm also aiming for full range of movement with my exercises. When it comes to things like hip thrusts, I'm focused on doing them currently in my training block twice a week. We've got pauses at the top, we've got pauses at the bottom, we've got controlled eccentrics down before going back up. I've got, a progressive training plan that is altered every 6 weeks. So I follow the same training plan for 6 weeks before I change. Most people get fed up of following the same training plan for a week or 2 weeks. This is why with the squad, I focus on compound lifts, but every 2 weeks I change some of the accessories, because at the end of the day, if you want to achieve your goals, you actually need to enjoy the workouts that you're doing. Whereas for someone that's looking to compete, I don't actually care about what the workouts are. I just want to do what's optimal for me to get in the best condition that I can to get on stage. And when it comes to building muscle, following the same training plan, progressing from week to week is actually really beneficial. Sticking to the same plan for 6 weeks, I personally find that fine and it doesn't bother me whatsoever. And then it's also about making sure that I am trying to lift as heavy as I can for the given number of reps in order to maintain as much muscle as possible. I don't want to just have in my head, okay, I'm in a fat loss phase, I'm in a calorie deficit, oh, I better take the weights down now because I'm eating less, I can't lift as heavy. I always in a comp prep try and push myself to stay as strong as I can, or to get stronger, especially in the first few weeks of a deficit, pushing myself as much as I can to get stronger, to either maintain as much muscle as possible or possibly to gain some muscle too. And as I've said many times before, it really depends on your level of, fitness journey as to whether you can build muscle and lose fat at the same time. Someone that is new in their first few years of training will find that they can lose fat and build muscle at the same time. Someone that's been training for a lot longer is going to find it very hard to do them simultaneously, and they'd be better off focusing on one or another. This is why you'll see so many bikini competitors or people that have been training for a long period of time go through shredding phases and bulking phases, build muscle phases, in which in a shred, your calories are in a deficit, and in a build, your calories are in a surplus. Or you've got some people that want to work on body recomposition, so they want to, you know, lose fat and build muscle. It's a slower process. They sit at maintenance calories. So everyone is different. This is why it's so important to make sure that your training and your nutrition is personalized to you and your goals. That was a lot of talking from me. I hope that this video gives you some ideas about what you can do in order to achieve your goals, but this is just, you know, the 5 things that I'm going to be doing over the next 10 weeks to ensure that I step on stage in the best shape of my life for the WBFF in America, keeping in mind that there are other things that I do every day that I haven't mentioned here, but these are just 5 of the key things. Other things that I have been doing are, you know, I've been doing it all year actually, writing 3 things I'm grateful for every single day on my calendar at the end of the day. I think it's a really good way for me to be mindful and to kind of acknowledge the small things that happen each day that are actually big things, and they all add up. And I think protecting my mental health when I'm going through a fat loss phase is really important. I also like to journal. I used to journal every single day, but now I kind of journal like once every few weeks depending how I'm feeling. As always, if you have any questions, I'm only a message away, and if you need help achieving your fitness goals, head along to fitwithanjuli.com, sign up today. I'll send you an email about your goals and we can get started working together.